Okay, welcome. You are here at the Reservoir Hill Association General Membership Meeting. Today it's October 8th, 2024. We're starting a little bit after 7. My name is Keondra Prier. Welcome all neighbors. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be here tonight. The order of our meeting generally goes like this. We begin with our board reports, which will be pretty brief. Those should end around 7:20, and then we'll jump right into our discussion. Today's discussion, we have the honor of being met by the fire department. We've had a slate of fires in the neighborhood, and they're going to meet with us and talk a little bit about fire prevention. And thanks to the safety committee for organizing that. And then we're ending and having the majority of our conversation time which will begin around 7:40 about the Amtrak acknowledgement letters that we're encouraging people to acknowledge and get legal representation for that issue. Then always we end the call with any announcements that people would like to share from the community. So without further ado, again, I'm Keondra Prier. We have been working on beginning a neighborhood vision plan and working with the Community Design Center to do that work. We have been told that their work is on hold at this point. And so we are trying to reach back out to them to find out what the next steps are to continue that work. But in the meantime, we are seeking grants so that we can hire design firms so that we can continue the conversation about visioning for our community. We've been very, very active with Amtrak. We have an ongoing Title VI complaint, which we just submitted yesterday, additional paperwork that they required from us. It was extremely an extensive letter that was returned to them, about 30 pages long with hundreds of unanswered questions. So we are waiting more information about that, but the investigation is definitely ongoing and open. We have signed on officially with the Community Law Center to represent us about and our members for any land rights negotiations, and we'll be talking a lot about that later in the call. And then I would just like you to know that we did last month go before the City Council to testify against bills that would sell the city right of way in our community. They paused the vote due to our testimony and other issues, and that those votes have not been voted in as of yet. And as of this morning, we do not have a date as to when that vote will occur. Okay, Jerika Robinson, are you on the call?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Do you have anything to share for the good of the group?
Um, I've been to a couple meetings, but I've been out of the neighborhood. I went to the Upton development meeting Friday, and just to give overview, they're doing a lot of work. We don't know over there in that Upton Sandtown community. They renovating the old Afro building. They're doing the Betsy B. Stove building. They're doing the Perry Mitchell's home. They're doing a lot of renovation on some homes. A lot of developers are over there doing a lot. They're doing some more work with the Lexington Market. So a lot of work is being done over there in that Penn North, like I said, Upton area. Also attended a meeting with the Greater Baltimore Black Chamber of Commerce, and Amtrak was a speaker there last week, and they were giving out information about all the jobs and the opportunities that one can apply for with Amtrak, from asphalt people to excavators, just on and on and on. So I raised my hand and said, are you going to discuss how this is impacting the various neighborhoods? And of course, I got shut down. Oh, we're not here to talk about that. That's another time for that. We're just contractors who are doing the work, So then someone else stood up and was saying, well, weren't you the ones who also had done the work up in Boston, and there were leaks in the tunnel? Yeah, but yeah, they hemmed and hummed about that. So they being very evasive about the different components that will be impacting the various neighborhoods, to say the least. But I think that's it. Those are the two major things I've been doing. So that's it.
Thank you, Jarika. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Ward, I don't believe is on the call. She's been working very hard this week and last because she has been drafting arguments to stop Amtrak from demolishing the building, which was the medical center on North Avenue. They were slated to demolish it yesterday, then they moved it to tomorrow. Now they're saying they will not demolish it until next week. And so she is not on the call. She's getting some rest from pulling a lot of all-nighters. But we do want to announce openings for the 2025 election. We are calling people to step forward. If I can't see who is not muted, but someone is speaking in the background. If you could just mute yourself if you've just
Yes,
joined.
I'm
Um, there are openings for the election, and if you are a member, if you're an active member in our organization, or if you need to know whether or not you're an active member, we're happy to update you. But we are looking for someone to step up into the role of president, my role, vice president, Jarika's role, treasurer, marketing and communications chair, and the architectural and historic chair. And I always want to say, I see Kim on the call. One thing that Kim Forsyth really advised us to do when drafting our bylaws was to ensure that the president would move from the president to a president emeritus status after they step down. So I want to say, if it sounds overwhelming or crazy to think about becoming president, just know that we will be there to support you and walk you through that role. And that will, sorry, someone is trying to sign on. Okay, can you guys still hear me? I think I can
Yes.
ignore this. Okay, I just got a pop-up.
If you want, you can make me co-host and I can watch the room.
Okay, I will do that. Um, let me try to find you really quick. But anyway, my point being is that we are just normal people on this board. We're just your neighbors, regular residents, and we want you to succeed. So if you are interested in stepping up in any of these roles, reach out to me. If you're interested in running for president, to Jarika as vice president, to Chet, who will be speaking shortly. If you're interested in running for treasurer, you'll hear from Daryl later in the call, and we need an architectural and historic chair, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But our next meeting is our big annual membership meeting. And I think, Janae, you have that on your slide, so I'll keep it to that and keep it moving. We have a lot to talk about today, so we're trying to speed through these. Chet, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chet Myers. I'm the treasurer of the organization. And as Keondra said, we are looking for a replacement treasurer to run at our next meeting. And I also will be around to help out transfer all the information to the next treasurer. So happy to help out with that. So up on your screen, first of all, this is a year-to-date income statement for the organization. And our current bank balance is slightly over $20,000. We've had about $15,000 in total income this year so far. Dues make up approximately $700 of that. So beyond that, most of our income is coming from grants, large donations, and the garden and home tour event. And on the next slide, there is, if you could go to the next one, this is our expenses for the year. So far, we have expenses of 8654. Most of those expenses have been for events. We also have fees that go to our technology and finance processing fees, that type of thing. So as always, if you have any questions, you can email me at the email address treasurer@reservoirhillassociation.org. If you would like to pay your dues, there's a QR code up on the screen. You can go through PayPal and do that, or you can drop off a check. All the information for donations is on our website as well. And I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
Thank you, Chet. And I just want to say has been a banner year for us. The last couple of years, our board had a really high priority of making sure we had enough in the bank so that none of us would have to personally give money to run the organization, because the founders of the organization really came out of pocket for everything that we have. So I'm really proud of us as how far we've come from a zero bank balance to this. It's quite amazing. So like I said, our architecture and historic chair is vacant. It's been vacant for some time, and we have some really urgent issues that we want to take up, specifically in relation to utilizing Section 106. But the most urgent thing that we have been working with the Mount Royal Terrace Historic District on is on the preservation of 2001 Park Avenue, because the BMP Tunnel project actually puts that property at risk. And there's a lot of concerns. It's one of the oldest properties in the community. It was built in the late 1700s, and we want to make sure that it's preserved through this project. So if you're interested in historic preservation, if you care about the community's historic preservation, this might be the place for you. And you have a lot of support, a lot of very busy people that would contribute, but just might not be able to chair it. So I'll keep on going. Janae.
Hi, thank you so much. So before I start, I just wanted to point everyone to our community events calendar, which is on our website. So everything that I'm going to review very briefly is also on our website, or it will be on our website very shortly. So we had a September Pets and Peeps. It was the brainchild of one of our neighbors, Anissa Lambertus, and it was such a wonderful success that we decided we're going to do it again October 25th. This one is going to have a Halloween theme. So if you have a pet, if you don't have a pet, come on out. It will be an event where we're going to try and drive membership as our primary goal. Also, we have a pet obstacle course, pup cups, which I recently learned about, as well as some other things, photo shoot with your dog or your cat or whatever pet it is. And we'll have a contest to see which pet has the cutest costume. So come on out. For Halloween last year, next slide, please. For Halloween last year, we did a wonderful social event where we encourage people to come out. We're going to do it again this year. The QR code to the right is the link that will allow you to sign your house up or your location up for being on what we're calling a candy crawl. So the good candy trails to let the kiddies know where the good candy is going to be. And then come on out, meet your neighbors, have some fun, enjoy the creativity that our little neighbors are going to bring forward with the Halloween event. So our next event was already mentioned, and that is November the 9th. Our annual in-person meeting is going to be at Dorothy I. Height. It's going to be at 11 o'clock. For those of you who are on the events committee, we are going to need some support in the form of thinking up icebreakers. So this is our annual event. People will come in person. We'll get a chance to interact with one another. And we will workshop something that is impacting our neighborhood and, give feedback, et cetera, et cetera. So at any rate, as I mentioned before, all of these events are on our events calendar. Our next events meeting is just before our pause and peeps for October, the 24th at 7 o'clock. Again, you can also pick up the link for the events committee event on our community events calendar. So thank you so much. I'm also dropping the Airtable for adding your name onto the candy or your location onto the candy crawl in the chat box, and text me or email me if you have any questions. Thank you. Turning it back over.
Thanks, Janae. Lauren Mohammed, are you on the call? Okay, I'm going to keep it moving. Daryl McLean. Daryl?
I think that Daryl might be in a noisy location.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so I'm just going to give a brief overview. A lot of activity has been occurring with the marketing committee. And so he has done an amazing job of organizing all of the information that goes out. He has finalized the content calendar between now and the end of the year. For those of you on the board that have access to the Google Drive, everything is organized and collated for further reference. And then so the next committee meeting for October, I am really struggling with the word meeting, is October the 17th. We have been combining meetings and sharing space. So there's a possibility that there be maybe some bleed over and some scope creep from events to marketing, but nonetheless, all of this is also on the community calendar. So feel free to to identify what appeals to you and come on out.
Thank you again, Janae. And I guess these are some images from the events. Arlen, did you have any announcements today?
No new developments other than the progress with the Reservoir Squares moving along. I think last time I checked in, it was like 20 units that have been sold, and there's robust demand going on there. We're still in schedule for the Druid Park Lake Drive completion by the end of 2025. Just keep our fingers crossed on that one. And also for the completion of the park on Madison and Whitelock. Hopefully we'll get that done by the end of 2025 as well.
And Arlen, I'm just going to mention out loud, we were slated to hear from the folks at Tune Up City tonight, but they didn't get back to us. So hopefully either they will attend our monthly membership meeting or some other way to give us some updates on the status of Tune Up City. And I just wanted to share, if you all didn't know, if you use the light rail or if you need transportation to the Penn Station, that there is a new bus route that's serving our community. It takes you directly from North Avenue right to the light rail station, right in front of the light rail. So if you weren't aware, that's a brand new bus route, 85. And it's very convenient. It comes very often, especially in the morning commuting time. So just wanted you all to know because I thought it was a delightful new piece of information. Rolando Maxwell, Safety and Security. Are you on the call? I see you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rolando, Safety and Security. The report for Reservoir Hill, we had a total of 16 incidents, which are the following. We had 2 weapon discharge, 2 robbery, 2 aggravated assault, 1 carjacking, 4 auto larceny, 4 stolen car, and 1 fire, alarm fire or fire incident. I think that number is wrong, but I guess that's what was reported to them because I think we had more than 1. That's basically it. All I can say is that the Western District been extremely busy for the past month, the past week. There've been a lot of incidents in the Western District. And that's basically it. Any question?
Okay, thanks, Rolando.
You're welcome.
Oh, I see a hand up. Kim?
I just wanted to suggest that maybe it'd be good for Rolando to hear from people when they have security cameras outside, because we had a vandalism. Someone tried to steal a Hyundai at Lenox and Mount World Terrace, and they totally trashed the car. They stripped the gears, broke the window because it was a stick shift and they couldn't get it, but they ruined the car. And then there was the next night, there was a car on Lenox in the 600 block that was vandalized, and they tried to steal that one also. So I'm thinking, because somebody came forward with some security video, that maybe it'd be a good idea to create a database of those who have a security camera, because thankfully a neighbor heard about it and sent us a copy of their video. So that might be a nice thing, and I'd be honored, I'd be happy to put an Excel spreadsheet together of people who are willing to give their names as having a video camera when something like that happens. Just a suggestion.
Actually, thank you, Kim, for mentioning that incident. Actually, we've been having what I call door checks. There's someone been walking around checking the doors. I actually got a call early in the morning asking me if I was aware that there was a car that was in front of the house and someone was vandalizing it. Fortunately, there was a tree and I wasn't able to see the individual. And also, there was a plumber that got robbed at gunpoint. Unfortunately, he did not report it. I was told what the sense of reporting it because the cops just come and give you a piece of card. So make sure you close your door, and when you have workers coming around, keep an eye out because apparently they are looking at the workers and sticking them out.
Well, and these guys, the ones who did it on Lennox were so bold. It was only 9:20 at night, I think. And there were 4 of them, and they were actually yelling and making noise. And there was just no shame whatsoever. They didn't care that they were right in front of somebody's house. It was only 9:30 on a weekend night. They were totally bold. So just beware. Don't leave anything on your, you know, on your
Inside your cars.
in your car that's visible. You know?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. And we can definitely discuss that offline if someone would be interested in registering the camera. And Chet put in the chat that you can register your cameras with city services at baltimorecity.gov to be a part of what's called City Watch, where the police will know. Basically, it's a way of notifying the police that you have a camera that could be utilized. I know some people feel uncomfortable joining that because of security concerns, but Chet has put more information in the chat. If you have any questions or concerns about that, I'm sure you can send them along to Rolando and he can get your questions answered with the police. So we'll keep it moving because we are a little bit behind, but we're doing pretty good, actually. So now I would love to introduce Lieutenant Shayna Houghton. Lieutenant Houghton, are you on the call? I think I saw you. Lieutenant Houghton? If you're speaking, you're still on mute. Okay, I see a Shayna on the call, but maybe it's not Shayna Houghton. I'll give it 5, 4, 3.
Okay, wait a minute. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Hi. Hi. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I was having the hardest time trying to get unmuted.
Okay. Do you need access to share a slideshow, or is this more of a conversation?
This is more of a conversation because I wanted to kind of have an idea of everyone's concerns and what exactly is going on. I know that we've had more than one fire in your neighborhood going forward. And so kind of I think we've been trying to, as a fire department, trying to, get enough information to know what exactly is going on. Do we have an arsonist that's going on in your neighborhood? Is it that we're just having a lack of information? And so that's why I was so excited that my schedule freed up that I could be on here with you guys tonight. So my goal is I can talk for hours, but I'd rather field your questions and get your concerns and your questions that you might have about what's going on in your neighborhood and what you think could be some solutions that we can come up with to make it a little bit better.
Okay, well, I can start with what I know so far. And then if people, what we can do is if you could use the hand, either physically hand raise, and I'll try to see you, me and Melda will try to see you on the screen, or you can use the hand raising button, which if you look at the bottom of your Zoom, there's a react button and you'll just click raise hand, and then you'll be in order if you have a particular comment, and then I'll call on you and you can come off mute and speak. If you're on your cell phone to unmute, I think it's *8. Melda, is that right? I think it's *8 to unmute on your cell phone.
I think so.
If you're connected by your cell phone. So we can begin our discussion. So Lieutenant Houghton, oh, and sorry, and I have another note in the chat. If you haven't already, if you can change your name, your name on Zoom so we know your first and last name, so we can also check you off the list as having attended this meeting. We would really appreciate that. Lieutenant Houghton, one thing that we know is of urgent concern is that roof repair is unregulated by Housing and Community and Development. And so a number of fires have occurred in the community because people have done burn down roofs where they'll go on the roof and they use a torch and torch down the asphalt. And it's caused fires not only to the home, but to the adjoining homes. And it will spread across the row homes. And so anything that you could share with us to kind of avoid that, that would be really great.
So definitely, it is asking the contractor, whoever you have that's doing the roof, to not do that. Because we know that those asphalt roofs are highly flammable. And that is just not a sufficient way. I know it's probably efficient on their end because then they're just burning it, bubbles up, and then they can scrape it off. But it's highly flammable. And so that's just not a way that we could go. Unfortunately, the way that houses were done in the time where most of the houses in your neighborhood, there were slate roofs, right? And so then that, progress always changes everything. So people took those slate roofs off and replaced them with asphalt roofs. And at the time, people didn't really know, how flammable that was. They knew it was hot, but they didn't realize how flammable it was. And so, we have advanced, and there are other techniques that people can use to replace roofs. And so part of the thing that we're doing in the fire marshal's office is kind of starting to compile a list of contractors. Because we get a lot of information from business owners and citizens like you that let us know contractors that are just not doing what they're supposed to do, contractors that are not licensed. And then my hope is eventually we can have a website where you could go in and you can look, like we can give suggestion. We can't endorse a contractor, but we can maybe come up with a star system that says, this is what we've gotten over the years, and these are the ones that we think are honest and above board, and go from there. Because we get a lot of it in our inspections. We see a lot of things that we don't agree with, and that we don't particularly care to do it. But everybody doesn't know the fire marshal's office exists, and that you can call us and ask us questions. And so that sometimes is a challenge.
Okay. So a couple things. One, I see Tony here with his hands raised, and I want to read a comment by Alyssa Moorhead. She says, what has caused the recent fires? Isn't that what will answer the what's going on question? So I think what Elisa is pointing to is, does the fire department keep a record of the pattern in our community? Much like the police department, where they can kind of say, well, this different type of event happened in the community. Does the fire department track what is the cause of the fires in the community? Do you have that record?
So what we do is each time there's a fire, we have a report. So we develop a report about what it is. Now, do we track it as to we can see trends? Sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't. It depends on how the fire is classified, right? Because if the fire is classified as accidental, then we wouldn't really track how many of those accidental fires are happening, because we're saying that it's, maybe it's user error. But if we're saying it's accidental and we're differentiating whether it's accidental and it's a juvenile involved, or it's accidental and it's a contractor involved, I think with the help of the citizens that we can start to maybe compile something like that that kind of gives us some trending. One thing the fire department is not very good at, and I will admit, is analyzing and just being an analyst, because we're not used to that, right? We're used to running in, putting the cold stuff, the wet stuff on the fire, and then kind of moving on to the next thing and going, phew, okay, nobody got hurt, then that's all we worry about, you know? But we're starting to get to a point where we do need to put some more thought into analyzing these different fires, and not to throw point fingers at anybody, but to better understand where we can throw our resources to. So where it comes to me maybe educating a community such as yourself, or us being able to blitz a community with, you know, additional resources. That's where we kind of need to go, and we're starting to trend that way. We move slow because we've never done it before, so it's new to us.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I see more questions in the chat. But I'm going to go to Tony and then ask the question that I saw in the chat. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, sure. First thing I want to say is that I know that the fire that happened on Newington must have been like maybe 2 months ago. That was caused by electrical fire. And that was really, really, really bad. But the thing about these houses are they're all connected. So if one house gets on fire, it still gets on fire. So in terms of the roof, do we have any, and this might be a question for somebody else, but do we have any sort of incentives on roof repair, roof replacements? I know in the county, my buddy just got his roof replaced free of charge because he was, you know, he lived in a community similar to ours where houses are connected, so everybody is affected. And if there's any resources or you know, maybe like a guidebook on, you know, how to leverage your home insurance to get your roof replaced in a method where, you know, it's not a hazard. Any sort of like resources like that, I think would be great to have. And that's really all I got to say.
So that suggestion I will take to heart as something that we maybe can develop in conjunction with other agencies, because traditionally we don't know, you know, we don't capture that information, because even though the fire marshal interacts a lot with different contractors, it's not within our purview to like recommend somebody or to rate somebody or anything like that, right? So we kind of just go, okay, this is going to be approved or this is not going to be approved and that's just on the fire marshal. But only part of the fire department that actually does that, right? So, you know, a lot of the times we work with other agencies, and I think this is where Baltimore on a whole has issue with, because we have so many programs that are out there, and I'm sure actually there is a program that will replace your roof free of charge. But the problem with the city is that we are not connected. So even though I'm having a conversation with you, there's another agency who actually needs to be on this call and to be able to give you that information, but they don't know that they need to be there, right? Until it's too late. I think part of the job that I have done in the city, and I'm very proud of, is being a liaison. To be able to bring groups together. So when we have an issue like we have and still have an influx of assisted livings that are turning, you know, some of these homes into assisted livings. And some of them not doing the right thing, but some of them also not knowing what to do, because again, there's a disconnect. Even though there's so many things that are offered, there's a disconnect on how it gets to you, and that's unfortunate. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us in the city agencies are trying to bridge the gap to, and try to make it work so that we can address all the needs of the city.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that was Oh, sorry, Tony, that was great. And I just want to make everyone aware that Councilman Torrance is on the call. So I'm hoping that we could coordinate Councilman Torrance with your office, the fire department, potentially CDC and CHAP to try to find these solutions because hearing you say that the historic materials that would have been on the roofs might be more fireproof or fire safe makes me think think of the funding sources for making something like that happen. And then I'm also thinking about the wiring issue and wire replacement. These are things that are very expensive. We have a lot of senior citizens who are homeowners in this community who are on limited income. And the idea of rewiring your entire home or replacing a roof is a very large expense, especially in our historic homes. So it'd be fantastic to connect these departments and think of solutions, Lieutenant. And I would really love to continue that conversation between maybe the PDC and safety can work together to think about how we can coordinate those departments. I saw a comment or a question in the chat previously that's gone, but it was from Jess Solomon who asked if there is you noted there is an accidental report. Are there other types of classifications of reporting to the fire department outside of accidental?
Yeah, yes, there is. So typically when there's a fire, if there's anything suspicious or upon putting that fire out, the fire engines, lieutenants, chiefs see that there are additional things that they can give. They will note that in their report, right? So it won't be just an accidental report. Sometimes they will say exactly what caused the fire. So they could say that this is an electrical fire. We do try. I'm gonna go back to my earliest thing and say we're not so good at analyzing things, right? But we do note certain trends. So we did note there was an uptick in electrical fires. And so part of my education and going out to groups such as yours and educating is because we do have older homes. Most of the houses in Baltimore range from the 1700s to the 50s, right? And so, that becomes a challenge because we're not quite like other cities. We do have some new construction things that are going on, but for the most part, people are renovating the older houses because we do have 30,000 vacant homes. And so the issue with that is that when we're renovating, no, it isn't cost effective to change all the electrical wires. And typically electricians don't do that. They'll run the new wires and they'll leave the old wires there just unconnected, right? Or sometimes they might be live and you just don't know that they're live. So the other thing that we really try to emphasize is being really mindful about how you use electricity in your house. What it is that you need to keep on. What is it that you need to unplug? For the most part, all of us make the same mistake because we forget that, the things that we use every day continuously use power, right? And sometimes that's why our electricity bills are extraordinarily high, because we don't realize that we don't need to keep our chargers plugged up all day long, because that's continuously taking power, and that's making your little circle that tells us the power company how much power you're using go that much faster, right? So it is about us kind of understanding that and changing the way that we do things, right? So there are certain things that we don't need to keep on every day, and it's on that individual to actually analyze your house and see what it is you need to keep plugged up and what you don't need to keep plugged up. We had a fire and it was a 94-year-old lady and she died, and it was because, we didn't do that check. We didn't go around her house, or her family members didn't go around her house and actually really see what she needed to keep plugged in and what she didn't need to keep plugged in. Because if they would have caught the extension cord that caused the fire in her house, right? If we regularly do that, a lot of times we plug these things in and then we kind of forget it. And that is not a good thing. Or we use these surge protectors and they burn out because they might have sparked. and we didn't think that it was bad enough to throw it out. But it was. As soon as it did that, it was time for you to throw it out and buy something new and make sure that you had that plugged in properly. So it's just those little things that we don't think about every day. That's my job to go around and remind everybody of.
So is that something that if you are here and you're like, hey, I have noticed my my fuse box switch is off, or I get shorts every now and then, is that who do you call to do that kind of inspection and walk through your home to check if there are electrical issues in your home that you should be concerned of? Because sometimes we don't think they're a big deal. And so how would you understand whether or not something is urgent in your home?
So if something is sparking in your home, definitely that's urgent. That's time for an electrician, right? But also the one thing that we do really well in the fire department is we do a home safety check. And you can request a home safety check that we will come out, make sure that your smoke alarms work, make sure that you have enough smoke alarms in your house. And, just a general check. And a lot of times I'll go through and just educate about, okay, I see you have 1, 2, 3, 4 surge protectors. How can we reduce that? Okay. You have extension cords. We need to get rid of them all together because they're only for temporary use. And you've had them there too long because they're dusty. You know what I mean? So it is possible to get on board. It's sometimes people think it's labor intensive because they don't want to bother anybody. We get that all the time. We don't want to bother you, but that's our job. Our job is to come through and just kind of tell you, because if you tell me you have a gas leak, and I've had homes that said, oh, I'm just all electric, there's no gas in my house, and I smelt gas, and had BG&E come out, and they actually had a gas leak in their house, because all older homes in Baltimore have gas lines that are put to them. Even if you never use it, there's a gas line there.
Wow.
So just letting people know just those things, that take that seriously. If you smell that smell, have it. It doesn't cost anything to have them come out and check it, make sure that you don't have a corroded line to your house.
Thank you.
That's common. So
thank you. Okay, so we're gonna take just 1 or 2 more comments or questions. So Jennifer.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can see you.
First, I just want to say thank you for putting this meeting together, and thank you, Shayna, for all the valuable information that you have given me so far. So I'm really quickly in a nutshell, Baltimore born and raised, was living in New York for a while, just moved back to the community on Utah North Avenue 2 years ago. So if you guys are familiar with that building, it's the really tall castle-like building.
Mm-hmm.
Love it here, moved in, turnkey ready, but it wasn't. Open permits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just open permits, plumbing and electrical is one thing. I like to do things by the books. I believe in safety. And I also know in order to obtain a certificate of occupancy, all those things have to be aligned, right?
Yes.
But the fire sprinkler situation, I've never dealt with that before. And that was installed because I guess the rules now, it's a multi-family,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I bought the house like that. It was already hooked up and everything. And I've been dealing with this for 2 years now. I don't think that's normal, was not expecting that. I always give myself more cushion of time in terms of like, hey, if this is estimated to take 3 months, let me give myself 6 months. But 2 years, I don't know what to do. Shayna, if you could shed some light as to what I can do to help move the process better, what to expect. If you could like talk to me offline as well, that would really mean a lot to me. Anything I can do. I've tried every avenue at this point, and I really want to continue to stay in the neighborhood and build some roots here. I really love all the positive changes I've been seeing in the neighborhood, and I was so excited to be here, but right now it's really putting a dent in the opportunities I saw for myself in this neighborhood. So
I hear the frustration and I get it, and I get it a lot. Because I typically am the person who answers the phone for people who are having an issue, and I usually handle some of the complaints. What I can say, the process for putting in sprinkler systems is complicated. I don't really understand why. But the I guess what I will say is the thought behind it was coming from a place of positiveness, because if you have a sprinkler system in your home, that's one less thing you have to worry about, right? Because there's water to your home. But there's a whole lot of things that go with it. Like the connection to city water is about 20,000 to be able to get the water connected to your house. And then just having to have us check the sprinkler systems and making sure that it's functioning the way it's supposed to. So I understand the frustration. I think that I will have to listen to what you're individually going through so that I can guide you better. So I'm definitely open to having an offline conversation about it, so that I can kind of gauge where you're going, look at some things for you, and then kind of be able to guide you, because you're all right. A 2-year time frame is too long.
Yeah,
But we're overwhelmed in our little office with the amount of projects that are happening and the amount of issues that we need to take care of. So I can understand why it would take so long. Also, in your neighborhood in particular, in Reservoir Hill, we have a problem with the pressure of the city water against the sprinklers. So, for example, for years, Lakewood Terrace Apartments, they have their sprinkler system didn't work, meaning that the water never went to the top floors. And so we had to, because it was just not enough city pressure for the water to hit those top floor sprinklers. And then they had a fire on the outside of the building that went up the side of the building. And so, that's part of the issue, is that the city infrastructure is trying its best to keep up with the progress that's happening in the city at the same time. And so that also kind of has a challenge to it. So I don't know if the reason for your delay is because of that, and then we'll have to talk about that offline.
Yeah, thank you. I would love that. Because I keep getting pushback and people direct me here, but then they direct me back. It's one of those games that's happening. And I just want an honest ETA, honest expectation. And it's really hard to just get that, which is very, very surprising because that hasn't been my experience with a property I've had in New York. And it's just very surprising. And I have no more tools or understanding as to how to proceed. So I would love to continue the conversation offline. Additionally, I do have a property next door that's actually vacant. It doesn't look like it completely from the front. But if you go onto our roof, there is no roof. So that's another concern of mine. I just brought a property that's not only vacant, but has no roof. And after hearing what I heard about the asphalt and the fire, I really am concerned. And I don't know if a 311 call solves that. I don't think it does.
Well, there is a program, and we'll talk about that offline for that particular problem. So, I'll give you a little bit more information about that offline, because the city does do that. But we'll talk about that offline to be able to help you with that property.
Okay, thank you so much, Shayna. Thank you.
But I will say, having grown up in New York, I'm not native to Baltimore. Having grown up in New York, it took a long time for New York to get to where services are the way that they are. It was one point when it was exactly like Baltimore, and people were very frustrated. So progress takes time. I will say that, and just be as patient as you can be.
Understood. Yeah, they have you're probably familiar, NYZ Zola website, where you just go there, you who worked on it, when, the contractor, like more information than you could ever ask for. And here I'm like, there has to be something similar. And I'm like, wait, there's nothing. Everything's like a secret. I have to request to go into the archives, and then delays. But why is there a delay? It's weird. I don't know. But progress does take time. It's just 2 years is a long time. And at the end of the day, I still have to pay that mortgage. So it's a little difficult to kind of.
I totally get that, and I totally understand. But hopefully I can guide you through and see where the delays are. So we'll talk about that offline and see how I can
interrupt? Jennifer, I gave you her contact information in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Melda, and thank you, Jennifer. And I just want to amplify Jennifer's concerns. We've had quite a few neighbors who have been um, really put in a terrible place buying a property that had open permits. And a lot of times you would not believe that the city would allow a home to be sold to another person with so many open permits and so many concerns about the construction of the home. But unfortunately, that's a real concern that people are facing. And we've lost a lot of neighbors because of trying to battle and fix that issue. So I just want to amplify that this is a systemic problem that definitely is urgent because it's not only caused fires, like legitimately these types of faulty wiring, faulty construction in newly renovated homes has caused collapse, it's caused fires, it's caused all sorts of concerns that would involve the fire department. But further, it causes extreme strain financially and extreme strain to the legal system. And so if there's a way we could get ahead of this so that people are not allowed to do faulty work, not pull permits, and then sell homes without the inspection being closed, that, again, this is a coordination problem with multiple agencies, like you said, Shayna, and it really shouldn't be up to individuals to fight that battle by themselves because your story, Jennifer, is not unique to the neighborhood. It's actually quite common, and that's very sad. Kim, I see your hand, and then Rolanda will be the last comment.
I think, Jennifer, you really should go back to your title company and really get them involved because that was inexcusable. They should not have allowed the transfer of that property with that open. I mean, they should have been doing a better job checking lack of certificate of occupancy. So I would go back to the title company and get them to be a third voice that's a strong voice that's not your voice and sounds a little more threatening, and say time is, we got to get going here and get stuff done.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you. I can see that. I'll try that for sure.
No, this is not the responsibilities of the title company. This is the responsibility of you doing your due diligence, but also having a good realtor. Because I am a realtor and I know it's a lot of UNOs that have not been pulled. And if you get one of these county people who don't know the rules and the regulations in the city, then a lot of people get screwed. And the city doesn't care. They will go after you as a homeowner.
I understand, but I'm a realtor also. And the only thing I'm saying is a title company should have been looking at that. They should be looking at anything that's open, but also they would have some leverage to get things done because they deal with the city a lot in terms of getting things done. So they'd be another voice that is not her voice that might get some reaction from someone. That's all.
Yeah, the title company is not going to do that because they only, trace the title, not the permits on the house. I'm just letting you know.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to keep moving on because we're almost at 8. I'm just going to say that Elisa has said our electric bills are high because of graft and corruption, not an elder's lamp being plugged in. The fire department, of course, of aging and buildings permits department needs a way to coordinate the data and organize grants, free inspections, and renovation support. Rolando, go ahead.
I just wanted to get her information because what I have to say will take long. So I'll get in touch with the lieutenant later on offline.
Thank you, Rolando. Okay, and thank you so much, Carson. Last comment. We really have to move on.
Sorry, I know. I'm going to really try to keep this quick. But Jennifer, did you have any liens on your property because of the open permits? Because actually it is the title company's responsibility to make sure they transfer a clean title. So I had the same problem, and I'm actually very frustrated with my realtor for not doing their due diligence. But I am talking to the title company, and it is a good resource to go to. So I just wanted to say that really quickly before we move on.
Okay, I will look into that. I don't believe so. Everything was already installed, so I'm still trying to figure out, all the points that you guys said, like how did this loan go through? Because it really shouldn't have if there's no certificate of occupancy. I'm trying to figure it out, but to my knowledge, there's no lien. It was turnkey ready. It was new. It's just the permit thing, apparently.
Yeah, because the whole purpose of the certificate of occupancy is to make sure that you live in a safe home and that your home is habitable. And so for that to have been your experience is completely unacceptable, and it should not be your responsibility.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to solve the problem and legally like be able to rent out the other units that are available that are just sitting there vacant, that someone could be enjoying a beautiful apartment, but also me have the peace of mind that I am living in a safe home and that if something were to happen, I'm okay. After hearing all these fire stories, I am happy I have the fire sprinklers installed. But it's just the way it's happening and unraveling is not how it should go. So it just
Well,
doesn't.
your lender, if you have one, shouldn't want it that way either, so. we'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion so we can move on? I think
Um,
the three of y'all should get together offline,
Yeah,
discuss this, okay?
yeah.
Because we know this is a situation that's we all have gone through and we have experience with. So just to
Maybe
move on.
it might be something for planning and development too.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Okay.
And or for the membership meeting. But thank you so much for the dialogue. Thank you, Lieutenant Houghton, for joining us tonight. We will spend the remainder of the night talking about the Amtrak situation. And please, we'll stay in touch with the Safety and Security Committee and PDC to address all the concerns that were raised today.
Thank you all for having me.
Yes.
I hope I gave you some information that you can use. You all can please take my information, reach out if you have specific questions that I didn't address tonight. And have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay. So now we will move on to the second part of our conversation, which is discussing the Know Your Rights considerations. And it will be a conversation that is open. People, please do raise your hands if you have questions or concerns, but I'm just going to go over some initial things. The first thing I want you to know is that, like I said earlier, the Reservoir Hill Association has signed on with the Community Law Center. And so every member of the association has access to legal support through the Community Law Center. I just wanted to give you a quick disclaimer. What we're going to be talking about tonight is not official legal advice. You can get official legal advice through Rosenberg and Martin, who are the lawyers that are working with the Community Law Center and are experts in eminent domain. And so we do have access to that. And they will be sending out letters later this week to notify you of next steps as far as acquisition negotiation. So the first thing I want everyone to know is that you might have received a letter in the mail, and it would look somewhat like this from Amtrak. It would have come through FedEx. And on the back of the letter, on page number 2 of your notification, something there should be a statement that says something to the effect of that you need to acknowledge the receipt. I've gotten a lot of calls from people thinking that they have to accept or reject the letter offer, and that is not true. You do not have to accept or reject it at this time. What they want from you is for you to acknowledge the letter by the 15th, and that's next week. So I wanted to urgently just give people information about that. So what is an acknowledgement? It means sending an email, and we have these sample emails and letters on our membership drive, and you will have access to that. But it's basically saying, I live at this home, I got a letter on this date. Please note, that I've received the letter. If you want to add additional context, like I have here, that there are errors, like for my letter, it says, for example, we've communicated multiple times that your property is on the alignment. For us, that's not true. This is the first letter and first notification we've ever gotten that we were on the alignment. So you might want to include that letter. You might want to include that in your note. And I see in the chat, someone said they never received a letter, and we'll talk about that in a second. You can also write an official letter, and it would look more like this, where you would put your name and address at the top. You would put who you're writing to, you would date it, you would say your property address, and you would have the same kind of notification, noting the tracking number of your letter, and then sign it and mail it out. The only thing I want you to note is that you should send any letters with by certified mail with return receipt. So you're going to want to do this at the post office. You're not going to just want to put the letter in the mail because it can deny that you wrote it, right? So you want to have some kind of official recognition that you did respond officially to the letter. And so we really encourage you to not only send it by certified mail, but get return receipt, which will allow you to have a record that they've received it. Certified mail right now costs $485. And then for your return receipt, it's an additional charge of either $410 if you want to get that receipt in the mail, or $262 if they email you. Depends on how you do your records. If you're a paper person, you're going to want it in the mail. If you're a digital person, you're probably going to want to do it by email. And you can obviously send that acknowledgement letter by email, or you can send that acknowledgement letter by email and letter, or one or the other. But the goal here is to have a record that you did it. You need that just so that they don't say, hey, we've been trying to reach this person, they haven't gotten back to us. And you just need to do that by October 15th. So I'm going to stop my share, and then I'm going to allow us to have a conversation about anything else regarding the letters that people have received. I see that some people say that they haven't gotten one. And what we know about Amtrak so far is that they're not going to send everybody a letter at once. So if you have a suspicion that you're on the alignment, but you haven't received a letter, that does not mean you're not impacted by the tunnel. They said that they might be sending the letters out in waves. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. They plan to send it out in waves, and the strategy from Amtrak's point of view is they want to get as many people to agree to how much they're offering you. And the more people they can get to agree to the amount, they can kind of pressure a new group of people to agree to the amount. They can say your neighbor, well, you're a neighbor who has the same exact house, agreed to this amount, so why won't you? And so what we're really encouraging people to do is to not agree until you have legal counsel. And our goal here is to have a group negotiation so we can get more negotiated with Amtrak than just a number, an amount of restitution, but considering the larger issues surrounding being impacted by the alignment. So again, people, I'm going to try my best to see all your questions in the chat. If you also would just raise your hand, and then I can call on you. I can also see it that way. It's a little bit easier than going through the chat, but I'm going to do my best. So the first question that I see in the chat is, I already addressed that one. I never received a letter. From Kim Forsyth, I see wise to request Amtrak response to your property in writing, as I know of properties that have received conflicting information in 2 separate calls. And thank you, Kim, for that. So the point here being is no conversation with Amtrak that is just oral is in your best interest. So anything that you just say in exchange verbally, that's not in your best interest. So if you're saying something to Amtrak that is important, you need to, and maybe you did speak to them at a meeting, for example. I've had instances where I asked them a question at a meeting and it was contrary to what I saw in writing. So when you get home, what you have to do is say, dear so-and-so, at the meeting you said this. Can you confirm that that is true? Right? So that creates a paper record of that exchange. But honestly, I don't encourage you to say anything verbally to them that is an official decision. So for example, it says that you can call and say that you've received a letter, but I would not encourage you to call. Get everything that you can in writing. So Travis Jones says, Mine says to acknowledge by November 15th, not October 15th. And that is true, Travis. People will have different dates on their letters. So you're going to want to look at that. So mine says October 15th. Yours might say a completely different date. But what you're going to want to do is note that it just says acknowledge by, not accept. Because a lot of people felt, oh my God, I have to decide whether that amount is okay or not by October 15th or November 15th. That is not the case. It's not true. All you have to do is say, I've gotten the letter. That's all that you are obligated to do at this point. Now, how do you know if you're supposed to get one? How do you know? They tell you to call a hotline. And like I said, I strongly discourage you from just calling the hotline, because we have had people share with us that they've called the hotline. They say that you are not on the alignment, but then you've gotten a letter in the mail. What they say on the hotline doesn't hold up. The only thing that holds up is that official letter. So if you say you called the hotline in the past and they said you're not on the alignment, right in this moment, it's in your best interest to write Amtrak. And that person, it would be Leah Gatlin, and I can put the contact information. And you can also email FD Tunnel. And what you're going to do is say, on this date I called, you said this, can you confirm in writing what you told me? Because again, whatever someone says to you verbally does not matter in the court of law or legally. I mean, it does matter. Let me not say that. It does matter what they say verbally, but you will have an easier time if you get any kind of communication in writing. It will be an easier way of proving what they said if you get it in writing. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I'll take a pause from the chat. Carson, you had a comment or question?
I did. So it's been relayed to me that people have tried to reach out to Amtrak directly to negotiate on their own behalf. And the reason why that could be very scary is because Amtrak has told certain neighbors of ours that basically they're getting free money, which is not the case. And I want people to be aware of their home insurance, because you should be reaching out to your home insurance provider, because generally there is a clause within your contract that says if there are any government actions that are being taken that impact your property or your structure, that home insurance provider is not going to cover you for damage. And so say you're getting a letter from Amtrak saying, oh, they're not going to say free money in the letter, to Keondra's point, but oh, we just want to buy your subsurface rights for $1,000, $7,000, $15,000, whatever the amount is. You're almost selling your home for that amount of money, because you are not going to be covered for any damage beyond that. And so it's not just, oh, it's just my ground rights, I don't see this, it's not important. It is very important, because there's evidence that if you live within a certain amount of feet from a tunnel, your home is subjected to structural implications and impacts. And so we just want people to realize the importance of the subterranean rights. It seems, and Amtrak will present it like it's not important, and it is in fact very important. And that's why we encourage you to have a legal representative speaking on your behalf when you have these conversations. And that's all I just wanted to say.
Yeah, and I just want to make it super clear, because you have to be it's difficult having conversations with Amtrak, because you have to be ultra specific with what you're asking. So for example, neighbors in the past have said, will I lose my insurance if I sell you my subterranean rights? And their answer will be no, which technically is true. But there are clauses within your insurance that if a damage to your home occurs that could have been prevented by the government, the insurance no longer has to cover you. And that would include if, say, there is vibrational damage due to a government project like a tunnel underneath your home. For example, if you can recall on North Avenue, there was a sinkhole and someone's home fell into the sinkhole literally in less than, I want to say, 12 hours. He didn't have even enough time to get the things out of his home. Well, the insurance company, I'm not sure if this happened in this case, but the insurance company could argue, hey, that sinkhole occurred. The government knew that was possible. And due to their negligence, that occurred. That wasn't a natural catastrophe. That catastrophe occurred because of the underlying subway system and aging pipes. And the city's neglect caused your home to collapse. Therefore, we will not cover your home and you can truly lose everything. And so one of the things that we're hoping to negotiate as a group is making sure that Amtrak can insure our homes to the full historic rebuild value of our homes. And that part is very important because what Amtrak is trying to send you in the letter is a market value. The problem with that is the market value of the land that they provided is, one, not the value that the state has valued our land at. It's about half of the state value. So that's already a problem. Two, the way that the state has valued our property is at half the cost of like properties in the city. So for example, your exact property size in Reservoir Hill is half the value than it would have been in Bolton Hill, for example. So that's already a kind of a faulty logic. And third, if you consider the potential of losing even part of your home, or there being cracks or maybe shifts in your home, and the insurance company would argue that is due to the government, and you don't have that government-backed insurance of the full value of your home, you can find yourself coming out of pocket individually for those repairs. And when we're dealing with structural issues, those can become very expensive. So I just wanted to be very clear with what Carson was trying to say, because the tricky part is we'll tell neighbors, hey, your insurance can drop you. And they'll say, well, I asked Amtrak and they said the insurance won't drop me if the tunnel happens. But because they're being Amtrak they're lawyers and they're going to be very specific in their responses to you. And you have to always be extremely critical of what they say to you. So I'm going to keep going. I put in the chat the emails. Sorry, Carson, we have a lot to roll through. So you have to raise your hand because I want to get to all of them. It's a lot. Okay. So you have to put your hand up. So what is on the alignment is a question. And what is the letter asking? Question mark. Eminent domain. So that is an excellent question, Elisa. So Amtrak has determined that the new tunnel that they're calling the Frederick Douglass Tunnel is supposed to kind of make a C curve through our neighborhood. And they call that the selected alignment because there were 16 options for them to build this tunnel. And they chose the one that is boring a new tunnel through our neighborhood. And not to spend too much time on this, but the argument from RHA and the NYU Civil Rights Law Clinic is that they were racially motivated in selecting that alignment. And actually there are better scientific ways to bore that tunnel that does not go through our neighborhood. So what the letter is asking is to purchase, and this is how Amtrak talks about it, the land beneath your home it depends on your letter, it will say, but for example, for my letter, it's basically 100 feet below my home to the Earth's core. So they would own all rights to your property from the point in your letter to the Earth's core. And that's what they're trying to purchase from you. So the way that Amtrak explains that is you have 3 different property rights. When you own your home in fee simple, you have 3 different rights. You have your subterranean rights, you have your property rights, and you have your air rights. All 3 of those, for those of us who, have ground rent, we might not fully own our subterranean and land rights. We might be having to pay rent to a landlord that lives somewhere else. So it depends on your particular situation, right? But those are three different rights that people can purchase from you. So what Amtrak is trying to purchase is your subterranean land rights. So you would still retain your property rights and you would still retain your air rights. And so the offer letter is saying, hey, this is what we think your subterranean rights are worth. We would like to purchase them from you so we can bore a tunnel underneath your home, and we would like to buy it outright. Now, what we're arguing is that, one, they should not be able to purchase that from anyone without also insuring their home. And two, we want to make it clear to every neighbor that we should be looking at it separately, their purchase of your subterranean rights, and separate that out from the potential damage to surrounding properties. And that's where they're confusing people right now. So people think, hey, if they didn't ask for my subterranean rights, I won't be impacted by the tunnel. And we want everyone to understand that those are two separate issues. Just because it's not directly underneath your home does not mean, as we were talking to the fire department, doesn't mean you won't be impacted, right? So we want to make sure that those two ideas are disaggregated, and so that we can negotiate for better terms from Amtrak. Kiana, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. So can you explain a little clearer for me the difference between the ground rent and the fee simple? So I'm ground, and I know the difference between having those two, but as far as Amtrak is concerned, now, could I possibly have not received the letter because I have ground rent, and so therefore they feel like they don't have to contact me, even though I've tried to find the owner of my ground rent and don't know who that person is and have not found him because I've tried to purchase the land or whatever. So could that be the reason why I never received the letter?
And I know Councilman Torrance wants to add to this, but yes, we suspect that might be a reason why some people have not received their letters, because Amtrak might first negotiate with that landlord to purchase the rights, because they technically own your subterranean rights. So they could sell it to Amtrak without your acknowledgement, right? And so I know Councilman Torrance's office has been working on negotiating different terms, because that seems unjust, that you might have to suffer on top of the tunnel without having actually accepted those terms, that someone who lives in a different city, state, or country might say, hey, why not? An extra 20K, 10K in my pocket? I don't care. It's not going to impact me. So I know that Councilman Torrance, you might have some things to add about the ground rent question.
Hello, everybody. Yes, you should look into whether or not you have ground rent. You can extinguish it and offer them a settlement for the ground rent. You can do it through either the state or a title company right away. Given the overload with the state, I would go with a title company to just do it for a couple $100 so that you don't end up having an issue with someone selling the rights underneath you. The other piece is that some people in Reservoir Hill have liens that the city has placed on their property. And because there are liens on your property, once you accept it, we then have to collect our debt too. So we're trying to work out with the city that we will not go after any debt owed to us. Case in point, a property that we demolished in the neighborhood has a lien of $70,000 on it. So we may not recoup that $70,000, but if that person got offered a letter and they took the 25, took the money, we are actually going to take that money to basically pay our debt back. So that's another thing that is to look out for. So if you are, I would go to the miscellaneous fees tab on Pay Baltimore City, baltimorecity.gov payment. Go to miscellaneous, and then if you have a lien or anything that's outstanding, it is there and will be attached to your property.
I need to.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I hear what he said. When he says you can extinguish it, that's provided that you can find the landlord, correct?
So if you can't, there's a process for actually just obtaining the actual like ground rent for yourself.
It is. Who do I need to contact to do that?
You can either go through the state Department of Taxation and Assessment, or you can find yourself a title company like Duck that will be willing to do it within a couple of days. It doesn't take forever to do it. It's just that a lot of people are going through the state because it's free to help with getting rid of the actual ground rent.
I think that was probably the problem that I ran into because I used my title company, but we couldn't find the landlord to purchase it from. And so therefore it was nothing. Like I'm just.
Yes, and it is a bigger issue, Kiana, and what we're
Okay.
happy to connect you with the councilman's office because what we're worried about is that, well, one, your landlord could have passed away. And that might be why that you can't get in contact with them. That does happen. But we're really concerned about the injustice, right, of you having to bear the cost as a person living on the land if someone
And that's my
has the
concern.
rights. Right. So
right. Well, and that's or if nobody sells the rights, but Amtrak feels like, well, we can't find anybody. She doesn't own the person that owns the home.
and then they
doesn't
take
own
it
the
by
the
eminent
brand.
domain.
And
Correct.
exactly.
Correct.
That's what I'm getting at.
That is an issue. And so we are working on a form, to your point, Kiana, for everyone on the call to fill out, so that we have a better understanding. How many people are actually facing that issue? How many people don't know if they have ground rent or not? We don't have a sense because the way that Amtrak has contacted people keeps us in the dark as an association. And so that's why we're holding this meeting to get a better sense of how many people even have been notified. Amtrak will not reveal that information to us, and it's on purpose because they want us to individually fight this. They don't want us to fight it as a group. So I want to just keep going because I know there's so many questions in the chat and I just want to keep it moving. Councilman Torrance, thank you so much for that. Okay, so on the alignment, there's questions about the alignment and no letters. I have damage to my home, feel the soil testing drilling. People have already gotten damage from just the testing itself. So we understand that's an urgent issue, and the Community Law Center is trying to work with an environmental justice clinic around these particular issues. And we can talk about that more. But that's something that I would appreciate you, Kiana, noting on your form. Who do you contact to find out about whether or not you're on the alignment? I put the email up further up in the chat, but I can copy paste it. I'll put it in the chat again. But if you ever have a question about generally, Carson's our chair, by the way. Carson Ward, who's on the call, is a chair of the BP Tunnel Working Group. So if you have a question generally about what we're talking about, you can email bpwgchair@reservoirhillassociation.org, and we could put that in the chat. But if you have questions particular to whether or not your property is on the alignment, I just put the emails for Leah Gatlin, who is the director of real estate at Amtrak, and fdtunnel@amtrak.com, which is the official email for the project.
Can I interrupt you real quick? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Sandy has been like raising her hand kind of gently. She's
okay.
She may have a question.
Okay.
Sandy,
go
can
ahead.
you talk?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure that. Can you unmute yourself?
She has a mute on.
Okay, I think her daughter's coming. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Hi, it's my mom. She's the owner of the house. And we found out we received a card in the mail about the ground rights and everything. So we wanted to know, what's going on.
Yeah, actually, I don't remember receiving a letter from the
No, we didn't.
to begin with. Yesterday, I found a little blue note that mentioned the meeting from tonight. And hi, how are you? That is Christy, I'm the owner. Yes. I have heard so much tonight, and it is all so confusing. So I don't know where to start. However, my daughter Sandy will help me with that. But I was wondering what all the people have said earlier, that in a way I'm dealing with the same problems. So I have ground rent, but we don't know who owns the property. And that is a shame, I think, because we should have had that, but that is another problem. So as somebody said earlier, that it is possible that Amtrak don't send letters to us because we have the ground rent, and they will send it directed to the owner of the land. And that will be a big problem, I think. So we have to wait and see. Is it possible to have things into writing so that I can go through it and go through it and read it? Sandy, I lost the
Yes.
bit.
Okay,
Yes.
so your concern about ground rent is founded, and I wonder if this is something that we should bring up as a topic of discussion during our membership meeting in November, to show people how to look it up and figure out whether or not you have ground rent and how to reach out to that landlord, because we want people to offer to buy out the ground rent before Amtrak offers. Because what Amtrak offers might be much higher than what you would normally pay to pay out and get out of ground rent. So that's something that we want to urgently address. As far as finding out if your property itself is on the alignment, what you can do is you can email. I put it in the chat. If your daughter can grab that for you, you can send an email. It's leah.gatlin@amtrak.gov. And the other email is fdtunnel@amtrak.gov. I think I put .com, but I meant .gov.
Repeat that address.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Repeat that address again. You said there.
Yeah,
I didn't get the email address.
I put both of the email addresses in the chat. Yes, and Melda corrected it for me. She put it in the chat already. So if you're not able to see that, what we can do is, if you have your information right now, if you updated it and we can see it, we can email you. Just send if you could just put your email in the chat, we can reach out to you after the call.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be good.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
And I'll send you the transcript in the chat.
Okay, I see Carson Ward, you were waiting to speak.
Yeah, I just had a question for Councilman Torrance regarding the ground rent. So I remember from the September 10th hearing, you had asked Amtrak to make a commitment as it relates to the ground rent process to make sure that anyone who has, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just to recognizing that this is an injustice and wanting to make sure that people receive fair compensation. So I'm just wondering, has Amtrak since made any commitments, what the conversation has been since that hearing, and where you're at in terms of selling the subterranean rights of the city property?
We requested a list of we requested property addresses because privacy concerns, because of Amtrak, because of the negotiations, of people property addresses where there's a ground rent that they are along their alignment. I'm waiting for that information to get back to me. Once I have it, I can share it with people to make sure that they know that they have a ground rent that they should probably more than likely buy, because it's anywhere from a couple $100s to maybe like $1,000 or $2,000 to get rid of it, especially given the offers that they made to people. Also, I've been working with the mayor's office as a part of it, because their fears that Amtrak will ultimately take the property from us in eminent domain, to work on what is fair compensation for us to transfer the property prior to the vote, because they have to go to the board of estimates as well. In addition to that, looking at how can we partially or mostly excuse city liens on properties in I believe, 6 neighborhoods that are impacted by this, so that we don't take money from families. It's a little bit of a wrangling in terms of what's moving. It's a lot of moving parts. And the good news is that holding up the bills means that Amtrak is running up against a clock because they would have to get all their bills approved by the council, by council vote, as well as committee vote, by committee vote and a council vote, and signed by the mayor by December 2nd in order for it to be done before this council. And if not, they have to start back over again.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any idea of when we can expect for you to have that list of properties?
I don't know because they could potentially be looking at wrangling votes around me, which means that they could go directly to committee members and they can just call a vote and I have nothing to say. So it's having constant communication with them, but I'm just being transparent with them like I need it sooner than later.
Okay. I know there are a lot of other questions. I'll definitely want to follow up with you on it. But thank you so much, Councilman.
Thank you both. Okay, so I just want to point out that Kim Forsyth put in the chat that you can find your ground rent information through baltimorecity.gov real property and look at the top of your page for ground rent info. And we can go over that in our November meeting if you don't feel comfortable doing that on your own, or you could reach out, I'm sure, to the constituent services contact at District 7 staff at baltimorecity.gov for Councilman Torrance if you need help with navigating that urgently, right? If you really want to be able to find that out within the week or the next week. And the other thing that I wanted to bring to you all's attention from the chat is that we always have to keep in mind that Amtrak right now is slated to bore 2 tunnels, but their larger goal is to bore 4. And so what we're discussing right now is really just phase 1 of 2 phases. They plan to do a second phase of drilling. So if you're adjacent, for example, to a property that has been identified to be on the alignment, it doesn't mean you'll never be on the alignment of the tunnel, right? So just keep that in mind. And that's why, again, it's so important to not think about land acquisition as the same as impact. They want us to think of it that way. They want you to think that buying the property is the biggest deal, but it's not. And I really want everyone to understand that issue. Okay, I see Maurice Braxton, your hand is up. Maurice, do you have a question? If you're speaking, you're muted. I'm going to click ask to unmute and give you a chance to unmute. Okay, we're going to keep moving. Maurice, if you unmute, I'll let you go. And D. Grat in the chat said, Amtrak's comparable properties are not accurate. They do not include the functional obsolescence, loss of property value from outside forces that our homes face. The tunnel is set to run nearly 100% under my home. What is RHA's legal representation's approach to addressing this monetarily for Reservoir Hill residents in the event this project moves forward? So right now, the legal representation's goal is to negotiate a much larger value to what Amtrak is offering. However, since Reservoir Hill Association just signed on, we're just in we just have the ability to push the legal representation to do far more. We don't think it's enough for them to offer you double, triple, or even quadruple what they're offering you. It needs to be far more holistic. It needs to include the issue around insuring your home for the build value. And I saw in the chat someone explain the difference between like rebuild and market value. So for example, Your home might have a $400,000 market value today. But the average home in Reservoir Hill to rebuild is between $1.5 to $3 million. Okay, so I just want to explain how different the market value is from the rebuild as like value of our actual homes. Many of the homes, for example, on Utah Place are valued between $2.5 to $3 million in materials. So it's so important for us to understand that what they're offering you for your subterranean land rights, when you think about the impact of that sale long term, we cannot quantify it at the level and the way and the manner that Amtrak is quantifying impact. So it's going to be on us to consider the full terms of how we want them to monetarily view the impact. And what our suggestions are is they not only think about the impact to property, but also impact to our long-term environment, our environmental health, any kind of disturbances during living, during construction. All of those things should be encompassed in an offer. And so that's why we really view the letters that they've sent as, honestly, it's a joke offer. It's an insult to all of us. And so we will be negotiating. But what we want everyone to understand, because so many people have told us over and over again, this is a done deal. This project is moving forward and there is nothing you can do. And I want everyone, good night, Councilman Torrance. Thank you. We will reach out if we need to. Councilman Torrance has left his email in the chat. But one thing we want people to understand and understand very well, if that's the way that you're thinking, nobody negotiates with someone who has no cards in their hands. Amtrak will not negotiate with any one of us if they do not think we are resisting this project. It is incredibly important for us to have a united front of resistance in order to be covered in the way that we want. So we really, we have had, to Carson's point, yes, thank you, Alyssa. Yes, Jinx, but I'm going to still talk. So I guess you could get me later. But what I want people to understand is that if we don't band together and we try to approach this as an individual problem, that will only benefit Amtrak. Amtrak has a team of 40 plus lawyers in their pocket. They have a lot on their side, but we have many more. We have many more people in this fight. And what we have to do is communicate with one another, trust one another, and fight together to make sure we get the best that we can possibly get out of this. And so if you all are not on our mailing list, if you are not a member and you would like to join, please do put your email in the chat, share that with us, complete the membership form if you just want to get on our mailing list. Melda, if you could, do you mind putting that membership link in the chat? And we will send around that form so you can let us know what you know about today, what you know about the acquisition. And I'm going to ask, because we're already at 8:41, I know it's so late. Thank you for staying on the call. As Melda said, if you're interested in organizing around the actions, please join the BP working group. Carson, can you share with people when you all meet?
We meet the first Wednesday every month. So it's a monthly cadence, first Wednesday at 5:30.
And to add to that, those dates are on our community calendar.
I'm sorry, one more comment. Maurice, did you want to say something? Keondra, are you moving on? Or
Yeah, I just wanted to say I put the same link in the chat, but it's for the ground rent, and it just basically explains for those people who don't know who that ground rent owner, what the process is for redeeming it. That was all. But I got stuck on mute, so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maurice. And oh, sorry, y'all. I'm like here trying to create this form for you for the people that I know are not going to look at their emails and they're not going to wait out for that, or they're going to miss it. I wanted to put something in the chat. So here is the form. I was trying to create it very quickly. So if you all could fill out that form, I just placed it in the chat. If you did receive a letter, if you haven't received a letter, if you've had communication with Amtrak, any experiences that could be extremely helpful to share with us, I'd really love it. Any final comments before we close out the meeting, or things that you want to raise for the good of the group?
Kevin here.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there, I think you said earlier that the proposal from BGE was for 100 feet below your home to the core of the earth. And in Baltimore, from ground level to the core is approximately 3,900 feet. No, I'm sorry, 3,900 miles. 3,987 miles. Is there some cost per linear foot algorithm or metric that they're using to compute the costs that they're offering?
I would say no. The way that they're calculating the cost, and that doesn't mean that we cannot think of a different way to measure the cost. In fact, it's incumbent upon us to return to them and say, the way you've calculated is all wrong, and this is how we believe the calculation should be. And that's what, as a group, we need to be thinking about and thinking through. So I like how you're thinking. But Amtrak, in their offer, what they did was they looked online and saw what recent vacant lot sales were. So for example, in my offer letter, they gave me a comparison to a vacant lot that's half the size of my lot and said that's what the value is of your land, because it's incalculable to calculate the value of your subterranean rights. Well, like I said, the offer that they gave, they said my land, for example, is worth $10,000. Well, if you go to your tax and what we pay for taxes online, it says the land is valued at $50,000. And that already is an injustice, because we know that the city undervalues the value of our home, because a like property in, like I said, in Bolton Hill or even up the street could be valued at double. And a lot of that is racialized valuations that are baked into the system, because we live in a city that was highly segregated. And so there's a lot of issues with the way that they've calculated the cost. So yes, that's how Amtrak calculated it. We can't accept that calculation. It's not logical, for one, but two, it's way below the actual cost of them doing business below our properties. So I hope that makes sense. And I see Daryl McLean.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Daryl McLean. I am the marketing chair. And I just want to say this right quick. We need you all, okay? I saw up to 73 people on this, attending this meeting today. We need you all to become a part of the Reservoir Hill Association, because we need numbers. For everything that we're trying to do, we need numbers. For Amtrak, we need numbers. There's too few people doing too much work, and we need people to help. So we need you to sign up for committees, and we need you to make these membership meetings, because we can get things done together that we can't do separately. Please and thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl. That is the truth. That is the God honest truth. We need your help. We need you. We need your mind. We need your thinking. We need your resilience, because some of us have been at this. Some people on the call have been out at this for 9, 10 years. Some of us for the last 3 years, 2 years, burning the midnight oil. So we need you to step up and bring new thinking to the table, new ideas to the table, so that we can approach this in a different way. Chet.
I hear you.
I think Sandy's got her.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Sandy. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is Christy. I hear you. So I'm one of them more than 10 years, I think, maybe not so long, to go to the in-person meeting. And what I just want to know, that is the monthly meeting where it will be. I don't have the address for that. Oh,
Yeah, I'll let your daughter know.
okay.
Yeah, but basically it's at the elementary school. That's where we'll be meeting.
Oh, the new school?
Dorothy, yes, the new school. That's where we'll be meeting.
Yeah, I'm live at Madison. And you spoke about the value of the land. I think here it is 69,000, I think. So I had seen the little blue pamphlet that I received that it was between, I think, 5 and 10. Then I said, that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully I will be able to have all the information. And of course, I will participate in everything because that is very important for me and for the whole area, for the neighborhood. So I'm very excited because this is something that is, the area I love living here. So I'm very pleased with all the information that you, from the beginning, I did not raise my hands, but I did hear a lot, and I agree with so many things. And however, here in my backyard where I live, things are going on, but that is maybe for a meeting in person that, people are, try to mess up the neighborhood, mess up the alley. And so that we can find some information, sorry, from me, how to handle this, because sometimes you don't know how to in a nice way to stop doing something or do it a different way. So, but I hopefully next month I will be at the meeting and will be able to have you address it to me.
Yes, we really look forward to meeting you in person. And certainly we can think through that issue because that's an issue a lot of neighbors face with their alleys and things happening in the alley. So that's definitely something that we can approach. And I just want to make a note about the in-person meeting. We will try our best. We're trying to figure out how to have a virtual option. We understand that COVID is on the rise, so we will be asking people to mask in that meeting to prevent the spread of COVID. And we will have refreshments outside just so that we can not have a super spreader event. So I just wanted to share that on the call, just so people can mentally prepare for that, because I know a lot of people do not like masking, but we also have a lot of elders, and we do not need anyone to get sick because they want to meet neighbors. So we're going to do everything within our power to prevent that event being a super spreader. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And
you won't with me because I'm senior and I'm used to masking. So
okay. Yeah, sorry to be like, for anyone who doesn't want to, sorry, but that's just going to be the policy because no one is trying to get sick again and again. Okay, so
thank you.
Yeah, so I'll keep going just because I know we need to wrap up. It's so late. Christy Burnett, my neighbor, said, please have a list of business properties, rental properties along the tunnel. Estimates by Amtrak were too old. Realtor, not an appraiser, put the Amtrak estimate together. The 10% is arbitrary. So they're saying that they give us 10% of the value, and capricious. The drawings have many disclaimers, and Christy is a lawyer. And so we're so grateful to you for your research and your work and your thought. And we'll keep that in mind. But the point is, do not take these offers as honest, truthful, or real ways of estimating the value of your subterranean rights. We really urge you not to do that. Maurice, your hand is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Maurice, if you're speaking, you're still on mute. I'm gonna click ask to unmute to see if that helps you out.
I don't think my hand was up, so I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's Marie, it's your iPad. Maybe you're connected 2 times, or maybe there's
Oh,
another
I think I'm
piece.
connected 2 times.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, I didn't even realize that. Let
Oh,
me.
that's okay. And Diana Hunt asks, what if you own a condo or row home? How does that work and value? That's a great question. I am not sure how that's different. It might be, so I don't feel comfortable speaking on that, but that's a question that I'd like to forward to the lawyers that we're working with at the Community Law Center. Because I don't know the specifics of that. But thank you for raising that question, because some of our homes are condos, and there are a couple of homes that are actually co-ops. So that's a very good question. How do you approach that?
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's a different Maurice.
Oh, it's a different Maurice. Okay. Wow, 2 Maurices on the call. Well, Maurice's iPad, if you have a comment or question, now's your time. And I'll give you a couple minutes or a couple seconds. I'm just scanning the chat. If anyone had a question that that wasn't addressed, I tried to get everybody's comments. I see everyone's emails. Thank you so much. And I know that we're getting close to 9, and my energy has slowed. In the chat, we're seeing some documents about the records of decision that Mike Wisner sent. Mike, is there something in particular? Oh, it's the engineering plan. So you can get a better understanding of what the boring would look like. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to count down in my head from 10. If there are any final comments, concerns. Okay. And we're closing. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to the call. We hope to see you next month or in the committee meetings. If you have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to reach out to contact@reservoirhillassociation.org, or for this particular issue to bpwg@reservoirhillassociation.org. Thank you for being a great neighbor. We look forward to seeing you around the neighborhood, and have a beautiful night. The meeting is adjourned. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
73 people.
Good
That meeting has
night.
73 people.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh.
Stayed in jail overnight, and all the next day. And they were trying to decide what they're going to do with us. So the second night, Will County came in and said, we're going to take us back to the Tennessee line, take us back to Nashville, Tennessee. They took us out of the jail cell, and we got on the outside. They had 2 police cruisers and a limousine, loaded us up with our luggage, and started driving 1 o'clock in the morning. We didn't know exactly where we were going, and couldn't see. It was dark. As a matter of fact, they told us to make sure you keep your windows closed and so forth, because it was taking us back towards Nashville to make sure nobody saw us.